All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and man, oh man, there have been some roster moves made this morning, along with a couple of other ones that have been done the past couple of days. So the major news is the fact that the Washington Commanders traded a draft pick for kicker Cade York. We also tried to sign a Pro Bowl linebacker in Nick Bellore. We're going to talk about all of that, both of those big situations. But even on top of that, going all the way back to August 19th, we've cut 4 other players and signed 4 other players to replace those 4 cut players as well. So we've had a bunch of roster moves the past few days that maybe a lot of people have not noticed, but of course I'm gonna keep y'all updated on them and break all of those down. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for pulling up to all of the videos and showing support. Yes, I will be live streaming that upcoming preseason game against the Patriots, even though it will be, I'm pretty sure, all backups, but there's still a lot of positional battles going on right now that are pretty intense. So we will be keeping track of that and breaking down everything going in that preseason game as well. But without further ado, do not leave this video without leaving a like. Let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so apparently the Washington Commanders are sending the Browns a conditional 7th round pick for kicker Cade York. I'm not exactly sure what the conditions are yet, but I'm pretty sure it's based on how much Cade York actually ends up playing for us. Like, if he doesn't end up making a 53-man roster, which we're going to get to, because this is not the final solution to kicker. That's very important to note here. So we're going to get to that part a little later, but I'm pretty sure the conditions have something to do with how long Cade York survives on this roster, how many games he plays in, how many kicks he attempts for, something like that, to where, like, if he doesn't end up doing anything for us, we lose nothing. We keep our 7th round pick. But if Cade York turns into a franchise kicker, then hey, Browns, y'all can gladly take this 7th round pick away from us. I'm just happy to have a franchise kicker finally, because we've been looking for that. I mean, technically for the Commanders for a very long time now. Very long, dating back even before this offseason with the Brandon McManus situation and all of that. But again, it's a conditional 7th round pick. So if he balls out, send him that 7th. We'll gladly throw that away for a franchise kicker. If he doesn't ball out, if he doesn't make the team or whatever, then you don't lose anything. It's as if the transaction never happened. And also, I do want to note though that ironically, this guy was beat out by Cleveland Browns kicker none other than Dustin Hopkins, who the Commanders fans are very much so familiar with. And my oh my, have the tables have turned. I mean, we went from demanding a better kicker than Dustin Hopkins. Then we ended up wanting him back through all kinds of kicker chaos and all kinds of stuff in between, leading up to when we ended up with Joey Sly. And then people were complaining about Joey Sly, even though I told y'all Cameron Cheeseman was a big reason why Joey Sly was missing a lot of those kicks. And then, since he's been gone, now he's on the Patriots. He went over there to the Patriots with Antonio Gibson and Jacoby Brissett. Now with the situation that we're in with the Riley Patterson, before we went and got Cade York this morning with Riley Patterson and Ramiz Ahmed, we were begging to bring back Joey Sly. I mean, this has been a crazy situation. Mind you, both of which are no longer on this roster as well right now. And so it's crazy when you really just take a step back and look at everything. The grass ain't always greener, man. We wanted to replace Dustin Hopkins with somebody better. Then we ended up wanting him back. We wanted somebody better for Joey Sly. Then we wanted him back. And now the 2 kickers that we've had this offseason, the longest throughout training camp and everything, Ramiz Ahmed and Riley Patterson, are now both gone. Thank goodness. We're going to talk about that as well, because after cutting Riley Patterson, we signed a safety. That's going to be one of the moves we talk about and where his journey came from, how he ended up on the Commanders, Pro Football Focus grades and everything. Y'all know I got y'all covered. And it's really terrible when your kicking situation is so bad that you have to trade for a kicker in a rebuild year. I really want to emphasize that. We are not like certified Super Bowl contenders that are like in win now mode right now, and we're still out there like we just one kicker away. We just need to make sure our kicker's good because we know we're gonna make it to the playoffs. We're gonna need our kicker to make clutch kicks. No, our kicking situation is so bad that we're not even that type of team, and we're still out here trading draft capital for kickers right now. I mean, that's how bad this kicker situation has gotten. And I hate how people sleep on how costly a bad kicker could be to a season, man. Remember this. I read this to y'all, these stats, back in my Dolphins preseason game review and position group by position group breakdown in the kicker section of that video. Check out these stats again. A lot of y'all have probably already heard this if you saw that video, but shouts out to Sam Fortier. He pointed out the fact that over the last 2 years, in what the NFL calls the close game era, 55.8% of games in within one score. So that's definitely going to magnify every missed kick. So this is now technically, out of any point in NFL history, the time where your kicker has to be on point the most. This is when we are most reliant on a good kicker in the pretty much the entire history of the NFL, at least in recent history, these past 2 years. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same thing moving forward. So you got to have that kicker situation figured out because that could make or break a season. I'm not going to lie to you. And I told y'all in my video last night, when I did my position group breakdown video of yesterday's training camp practice, that I was not falling for that same trick twice, man. He wasn't getting me. Not me. No, sir. That man, Riley Patterson, was excellent in yesterday's practice. Just like how he was excellent in that Dolphins joint practice. But then after that joint practice against the Dolphins, where he made all of his field goals, with most, if not all of them, being 50-yarders or plus or whatever. Then he went out there and missed 2 kicks in the 40-yard range, 40 to 50 range in the preseason game against the Dolphins. So there's no way that he thought that he could make all but 1 kick yesterday in practice and think that he was just gonna be safe. Like even one of the ones that he made, I believe, was a 58-yarder, and the one he missed was a 50-something yarder as well. But there's no way he thought that after he got us with that joint practice before the Dolphins preseason game, and then how he looked in that actual preseason game, that he could have a good practice before the Patriots preseason game and think he was gonna be safe for that practice, that preseason game against the Patriots, like in the actual live game. There's just no way. I refuse to believe that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and them would fall for the move more than once. And then I wake up in the morning and see that they did not fall for the move. And that brings a smile to my face, man, to see that this team will be proactive in improving this team, even if it's something as simple as the kicker situation. This regime is not playing it safe, which I love, in contrast to the previous regime, man. Trading for a kicker is potentially a heavily scrutinized move. I mean, when there's kickers out there that are available that you can sign for free, but it is a conditional 7th, but still, I mean, that's a move that, you know, some people are definitely going to be like, what are they doing and things like that. Now, of course, they don't care, but still. But apparently they plan on still bringing in more kickers even after trading for one. This is a kicker competition that's still continuing. We just changed the pieces. We changed the players, the characters in the competition. That's it. It's not like we just signed Cade York and that is it. So instead of playing it safe, this shows me that instead of just hoping to land a good kicker at the 53-man roster cuts happen on Tuesday, because you are second in waiver wire priority, if you want a kicker, you're more than likely going to be able to get that kicker. But I love the fact that they're looking at the situation like, all right, cool. We traded for a kicker just in case. This way, at least we know we have a guy definitively better than both Riley Patterson and Ramiz Ahmed. But if any better kicker than Cade York, who we just traded a conditional 7th round pick for, becomes available after 53-man roster cuts, because a lot of teams out there have more than one kicker on their roster right now, then we can go after him as well and let them just battle it out until we get to week 1 of the regular season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But granted, when you have 2 kickers, those are 2 roster spots being taken up on this 53-man roster, so you got to be cautious with that. But again, I know some people say that it's just a kicker, but it's music to my ears because, one, kickers are more important than people act like they are. Again, I just gave you the stats earlier. If there were any time that kickers really mattered in the NFL, it is now. These last 2 seasons have statistics to back that I gave you earlier. And then 2, it also shows that this regime will potentially approach other positions of need in the future with real aggression. And I love that. That projects well beyond the future, like beyond just this year, but also into the future, that this regime is not playing when there are weaknesses on this team. I know we're talking about kickers right now, but that just goes to show that like certain habits that they're giving you clues on that they have, the way that they go about things, it's not just a kicker situation. This is more than likely a situation and how they would handle things moving forward with every position group on the team. I'm pretty sure it was also intentional that they did this before the final preseason game so that they can give him at least as close to the real thing as possible as far as the test goes. You can't tell me that was not by design. And at least they got a guy with a leg. His career long is a 58-yarder. This team is very intentional and proactive. And so, again, even outside of just this kicker situation, that bodes very well for our future and how they're going to handle addressing situations and issues on this roster. Shouts out to Chris Cooley because he brings up a good point. And shouts out to him to these stats. Cade York in 2022, his only season as a starter, that's why we're going back to 2022. In field goal kicks from 20 to 29, he was 5 of 5, 100%. 30 to 39, though, 9 of 12, 75%. 40 of 49, 6 of 8, 75% again. And then 50 plus yards, 4 of 7, 57%, which gives him a total of 24 of 32 in 2022, 75%. And he was 35 of 37, 94.6% on his extra points. I mean, I can live with that. That's not the best by any means, but it's at least better than anything we've had on this roster since we had to let go of Brandon McManus due to that off the field drama that he had going on. Shouts out to Ben Standig of The Athletic. He said the Washington Commanders can stop looking for a new kicker. At least that is the hope. But again, I doubt that's the hope. I'm pretty sure they're still combing through NFL rosters and they're waiting for those 53-man roster cuts to try to pounce on somebody else to at least have 2 kickers on roster and let them compete it out. Unless Cade York shows us something in this upcoming Patriots preseason game before we get to the 53-man roster cuts to where we're like, all right, we're good to go. Maybe we don't need to have a kicker competition, but I wouldn't be surprised if we end up having some sort of a kicker competition even after the 53-man roster cuts. But again, just to remind you, that's a spot that you're taking up from another position group that you may need, so that may play a role into, I'm pretty sure they're just praying that Cade York is the answer before we even have to get to that point. But Cade York is a decorated kicker at LSU. He was a 2022 4th-round pick and is coming to the NFC East from the Cleveland Browns in exchange for a conditional 7th-round pick. Remember, Washington signed veteran free agent Brandon McManus this offseason, but released the ex-Jaguar after allegations of assault by 2 flight attendants surfaced in June that led to trying a 3-month search that we're still basically on right now. Rather than wait for more available options to hit the waiver wire when teams are required to trim their rosters from 90 to 53 next Tuesday, the Commanders jumped the line by trading for York. Ironically, he was beaten out for the Browns job in 2023 by former Washington kicker Dustin Hopkins, like I already told you earlier. With York arriving, Washington released Riley Patterson, who was the lone kicker on the Commanders preseason roster after they cut Ramiz Ahmed earlier this month. Patterson struggled to establish consistency, missing 2 of 4 attempts in Saturday's loss against Miami again, mind you. But York is 23 years old. He'll be turning 24, I think, relatively soon. But either way, still a very young guy. You know, that's why you hope that this guy could be a franchise kicker, because him being 23 years old right now, we could potentially have, I mean, kickers last well into their 40s sometimes. So, hey, man, hopefully that's the goal. We'll see. But again, he finished 24 of 32 on his field goals in 2022 with a long of 58 yards and made 35 of his 37 extra points with Cleveland. But the struggles the following preseason led to the Browns adding Hopkins, who was released by Washington during the 2021 season. York briefly joined the Titans and Giants in 2023 before re-signing with Cleveland this offseason as Hopkins recovered from a hamstring injury. York made 2 field goals in the preseason, including a 55-yarder versus Green Bay, and the minor trade call should not preclude Washington for studying the waiver wire next week. But York has a clear path to secure this job, and that's a good point. I mean, it's his job to lose right now. We trade a 7th-round conditional pick for you. You do arguably have the lead, I would say. No matter who they end up potentially bringing in, if they bring in a guy off of the waiver wire next Tuesday, you have the lead over whoever they potentially bring in. So just do your job, handle your business, and then you shouldn't have to watch over your back. This could be your kicker opportunity. I'm really talking to Cade York specifically right now. Like, look at me in my eyes, man. You do what you do. You do what you need to do. This job is yours, man. It's that simple. And hey, man, say, man, I'm pretty confident in Jaden Daniels' ability and to at least get us in field goal range very often in games. Confident in that. I know You know, I know it's preseason, but just make the kicks, because in this long Jets preseason drive, touchdown. And it's 2 drives against the Dolphins where they had quite a bit of starters out there in defense. Both drives finished well into field goal range, but Riley Patterson just missed one of the 2 kicks that he should have made. We just need a guy to be consistent. Please, Cade York, can you be that for us, man? And also shouts out to @BurgundyBlog because he brings up a good point. He said, I'm very much like the idea of test driving a recently drafted kicker for a negligible cost of a conditional 7. McManus left this team in lurch, but they are trying to get things out of it. And shouts out to Grant Paulson for saying, I like the proactive, aggressive approach to fix an issue. I completely agree. A conditional 7th is the NFL's equivalent of a ham sandwich. So if Washington thinks York only 23 with a big leg and former 4th rounder, I mean, we really need to emphasize the fact that this was a kicker drafted in the 4th round. The Browns really believed in this guy. Like, that is a huge leap for a kicker, man. I remember them being scrutinized for that. And remember, he once made a kick from 58. He could be a long-term answer. And then, of course, trading a 7th rounder for him is a no-brainer at that point. We're going to look back and hopefully we'll be like, man, that 7th rounder was well worth it. I would have given up more than that for him. Shouts out for David Harrison. He said Commanders getting a no-risk shot at finding their kicker with cut-down day still coming to provide other options if needed. We are definitely still looking, but that's a great proactive move to do that right before the season started. And then shouts out to @Commanders Realm. He said major respect to Dan Quinn and company for realizing they had a problem and quickly addressing it. The last group would have never did a thing, and I'm pretty confident in saying, yeah, I think that's true. And then shouts out to Al Galdi. He said Cade York in Cleveland was replaced by Dustin Hopkins, who in Washington was replaced by Chris Blewett, who was replaced by Joey Sly, who in Carolina replaced Graham Gano, who in Washington was replaced by Billy Cundiff, and then Kai Forbath, who was replaced by Dustin Hopkins. I mean, this kicker carousel is insane right now. Shouts out to Al Galdi for that. It's a crazy world we live in, man. But then, right after the Cade York news, the Commanders weren't done. Then they went and signed safety Sheldrick Redwine while also releasing kicker Riley Patterson. Riley Patterson is gone. Ramiz Ahmed was gone earlier this month. Now Riley Patterson is gone as of August 22nd morning. Love it. Redwine, a 4th round pick by the Cleveland Browns in 2019, has appeared in 34 games with 8 starts. He has recorded 77 tackles in his career to go with 1 interception and 3 pass breakups. Redwine spent his first 2 NFL seasons with the Browns, where he got his first start in week 12 against the Cincinnati Bengals in 2019. He started the rest of his rookie season putting up a career high of 42 stops. Redwine was waived before the 2021 season and signed with the New York Jets, where he went back and forth between the active roster and their practice squad. After a brief stint with the Carolina Panthers, he was signed by the Miami Dolphins in October of the 2021 season and promoted to the active roster in December. He spent most of the time with the Dolphins on special teams, though. And then Redwine signed with the Indianapolis Colts at the end of the 2022 season before getting picked up by the Dallas Cowboys, where he spent most of the time on the practice squad, but he was elevated to the active roster for the Cowboys' Week 12 game against the Commanders. So that's probably why he's here. His connection in previous history with the Cowboys, Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. were there to see that. So they were probably, combing through roster and was like, hey, man, what about Sheldrick on Redwine that we had on the Cowboys back in 2022? Maybe we should bring him in, type of situation. Looking at his Pro Football Focus grades, not great. I mean, his rookie season with Cleveland 2019, he had a 66.4 grade, and then after that it's just downhill. It just gets worse and worse, because then he had like 100 less snaps in 2022 with 276 snaps at a 45.3 overall grade. And then for the Miami Dolphins and New York Jets, he only had 34 snaps on defense and had a 27.2 grade. And then in 2023, only 7 defensive snaps with a 50.5 grade. Improvement, but still not good. This is a guy I'm gonna have to go look at tape on to really see what we potentially signed here. But I gave you all I know for now. Be on the lookout for me doing a better breakdown later. Then moving on, apparently yesterday the Washington Commanders attempted to sign Pro Bowl linebacker Nick Bellore after a private workout, but the two sides could not come to an agreement, and I don't know what's going on contractually to where we're just that far off for a Pro Bowl special teamer. It's not like this is a guy that you expect to play linebacker for you on defense on Sundays. This is purely a special teams type of guy. That is it. That is literally it. So I don't know where the contracts where we was just so far apart on, how much money could he even possibly be asking for. I know he's a technically Pro Bowl linebacker, special team, or whatever, but I mean, how much money are you really looking for in that role? He would have been a big boost to our special teams, though. But come on, dog. And so shouts out to Larry Izzo, because this is a former Seattle Seahawks guy. And so Larry Izzo was trying to bring in one of his guys, somebody that he's familiar with. But the original source of this is Mike Renner. He said exclusive. Sources tell me that the Commanders attempted to sign Pro Bowl linebacker special teams ace Nick Bellore earlier this week after a private workout, but the two sides couldn't agree to terms. And I thought we already had a bunch of special team aces, man. I mean, Jeremy Reeves is all pro Revo, you know what I'm saying? Just a couple of years ago, we brought over Anthony Pittman, the linebacker. He was arguably the Detroit Lions' best special teamer last year. We brought him in this offseason. He's still here competing. You have Bryson Tremaine, who's a great special teamer. Tyler Owens, my dog that I've been trying to tell everybody about since March. He's been stepping up and even exceeding my expectations and hope for him. He's an elite special teamer already as well. We have a lot of great special teams players, so I'm surprised by the fact that they were trying to go and get this guy, but maybe that's why they weren't willing to pay him, or whatever situation with the contract that he wanted. Maybe they weren't willing to do it because they do feel comfortable with what they had, but they just wanted to improve, which goes back to my point that they're being very proactive as an organization, man. Any way that they could possibly find a way to get better, they're trying to do it. But maybe also, I mean, with Jordan McGee hurt, and he was going to contribute on special teams, but more so as like I would argue healthy wise, like when healthy, our third linebacker, really. I thought it was going to be Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu with Jordan McGee in the rotation. I thought that would be our top three linebackers. Now he's hurt. They're saying that it will not be a season-long injury, and so maybe he'll come back sometime mid-season, hopefully early season or something like that. Maybe they were trying to bring in another linebacker that could potentially be like a backup to like Anthony Pittman or something like that. I don't know, but that's a really interesting situation there. But again, the Commanders front office is being very active right now. I love it. Watch out, because not many people expected them to go and trade for a kicker, first of all. And I knew that they would eventually go and get one at some point. I just thought it would be after teams were forced to cut their extra kickers when we cut to the 53-man roster sizes on Tuesday. But they went and got traded for one before that even happened. Very proactive. And then they also tried to go and sign a Pro Bowl special teamer at linebacker. You can tell they are clearly combing through free agency options and other teams' rosters right now. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go out there and make some big splash move out there, but it shows that they are being proactive and they're really scouting out here. Adam Peters is not just taking a day off just because we're getting closer to the regular season. I love how they're constantly looking for ways to improve this team, even if it's a very marginal thing, even if it's just a backup linebacker, if it's trading for a kicker before you have a kicking competition, it's just any slight edge we can get. They are trying to take advantage of it. But going back to August 19th, we had a few roster moves. We signed defensive end Justin Hollins and released linebacker Bo Bauer. And remember, Bo Bauer got hurt in that practice, that Thursday joint practice against the Dolphins, had to be carted off the field, and they apparently reached an injury settlement with him, so he's pretty much gone. Just to let you know, Justin Hollins was a 5th rounder in 2019 by the Denver Broncos. He won a ring with the Rams. He had 10.5 sacks in 67 career games. Not great, of course, but I mean, these may just be camp bodies. Every move that we talk about today, outside of Cade York, the kicker, may be guys that really don't have much of a shot at making a 53-man roster, but at least I appreciate the Commanders for at least giving them a shot. Hey, we know this guy's not good. We might as well cut him and try to see if somebody at the same position that's as a free agent on another team or whatever we can bring in to potentially give us better competition there. So I like the fact that they're doing it. And of course, we cut Bo Bauer to make this move. So, hey, there goes Justin Hollins. We'll see what he can do. Pro Football Focus wise, his best season was in technically, I guess, 2021, where he had a 69.8 grade and 222 snaps, but the season he played the most snaps in his career was 2022, where he had 435 snaps and a 54 grade. But this is a guy that plays a lot, like compared to the safety that we just talked about earlier in Sheldrick Redwine, where he's played majority special teams and sparingly on defense. This guy here has actually played quite a bit. Justin Hollins, at worst in a season last year in 2023, out of his entire career, played 197 total snaps. This is a guy that is heavily a part of a rotation, and you could argue even in 2022 was probably a starter for the Rams and the Packers. I mean, at least heavily rotated enough to where 435 snaps is a lot. I wouldn't necessarily say a starter, but a strong contributor. I mean, just going back to his rookie season, 266 snaps, then 349, then 222, then 435, and then again, the least he's had in his career was 197 last year. That's a lot of snaps, guys. This is a guy that has played a lot of football. Again, like I already said, I'm not sure if any of these guys that we talk about after Cade York have a great chance of making the roster, but this is a veteran that has played a lot of ball. We'll see. And he will be wearing number 59, which is, it was last assigned to Joshua Pryor, but Joshua Pryor is no longer here. And then the next day, August 20th, 2 days ago, they signed safety Kendall Brooks and linebacker Chappelle Russell and waived linebacker Keandre Jones and safety Ben Nickel, just in case if you were wondering. Just to let you know, Brooks is an undrafted free agent by the Arizona Cardinals in 2023. Finished his college career at Michigan State after transferring from North Greenville University. In the 2 seasons that Brooks played for the Spartans, he appeared in 22 games with 105 tackles, 100 of which came during his senior season in 2022. Brooks also forced 3 fumbles and had 3 pass breakups that season, but he hasn't really done anything NFL-wise to really note. That's why we had to dig all the way back to his college days, but maybe there's some potential there. And then linebacker Chappelle Russell. He was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 7th round of the 2020 NFL draft. He appeared in 27 games, most recently with the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2021. Russell had 18 tackles that season to go with 1 start. Russell was signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2022 and spent the next 2 seasons there on the practice squad and the injured reserve list because he definitely had his fair share of injuries as well. So we just brought in a whole bunch of guys with a little bit of veteran seasoning to them, but the most out of all of them is easily by far defensive end Justin Hollins, who we brought in and signed August 19th after we released Bo Bauer. So just to let you know, if there's anybody that maybe has the slightest chance of making this roster, maybe it's him. But again, like I said, I doubt any of these guys that we signed the past few days outside of Cade York, who we just traded for, has an honest chance of making this roster. If we would have ended up somehow signing the Pro Bowl linebacker special teamer, then maybe he would have made the roster and Nick Bellore, but that's it. I think Cade York has the best shot. Maybe after him is Justin Hollins, who I do not think has a good shot at all. And everybody else is pretty much just a camp body that I do not expect to really compete for the 53-man roster. But at least we're going to see them go out there against the Patriots and compete their tails off. You never know. It's not impossible. So don't give up on them just yet. I'm just telling you that it's not very likely. I'm always going to keep it a thou wow with y'all. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Do not leave this video without leaving a like. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about the Cade York move. How do you feel about all of these cuts that we've made, all of these signings that we've gotten? And also, how do you feel about us not signing a Pro Bowl linebacker special teamer in Nick Bellore? Like, how do you feel about the whole contract situation, the fact that they were far apart on a contract? How far apart could they be with him being a pure special teams guy? So, I mean, let me know how you feel about all of these situations. Do you feel like Cade York could potentially be the answer? If you remember him back on LSU, he was a high ceiling, okay, this guy may be that next guy up type of guy, and it hasn't necessarily panned out like that at the NFL level, but there's still some potential there. He's only 23 years old as of today, so stay tuned. I really appreciate y'all. Again, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything I said in this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.